I was coaching clients, coaching this couple, and in our work together, we've talked a number of times about what it means to be in a growth-oriented relationship. You and I consider our relationship extremely growth-oriented. It's one of the guiding principles. If I ask you to define that, what would you say?
Well, I'm so used to being in a growth environment. I feel like it's the bathtub that we swim in all the time in our relationship and have for years. But for me, a growth-oriented mindset and a growth-oriented relationship is about evolving and changing over time, and that it's not staying stuck or still. You know, that idea that you're growing or you're dying, and your relationship is growing or dying. I'm looking for how we're going to be growing going forward.
Yeah, beautiful. And the thing that I would add is that what makes life meaningful is being able to grow, to become more masterful, to perceive new things. So when there are challenges and problems, being growth-oriented is looking for solutions. And when things are going well, being growth-oriented is developing the capacity to really appreciate it. Be grateful, be touched by the goodness, and also, how can things be even better? So I think maybe at some point we can talk some more about what it really means to be in a growth-oriented relationship, and some of that will come out today. But the topic that I want to talk about is what arose when I was coaching this couple, because it became clear that one of them, and maybe both, had the idea that having a growth-oriented relationship is incompatible with feeling contentment and satisfaction within the relationship. In other words, if you feel really satisfied, then you wouldn't be looking to change anything. And if you're growth-oriented and wanting to change and improve and make things better and change this aspect of oneself or change this way of communicating to make it better, then inherently you're not really satisfied. That's not a feeling you have in the relationship. And so I coach the two of them on this. What's the right relationship between really enjoying your marriage, really feeling satisfied and contented, and also being deeply devoted and growth-oriented?
Well, just right off the bat, there's two things that I think about when you say that. One is feeling when something changes, some people I would feel destabilized by that. And that could be scary. And so it would be safer, it would feel safer to not change rather than change. That's one thing that I think of when you say that. And the other thing I think about is going not from bad to good, but from good to great. So sure, things can be good and I can be satisfied with how things are, but that doesn't mean that new desires don't arise in me, or I have the capacity to look at things in a new and different way, and then we get to go to an even better place. It can still be growth. It's like vines that are growing together. They keep growing together. They keep growing and they keep growing together. They don't stop once they've tangled around each other.
Ooh, that's such a good image. It makes me think of being in a pretzel position, like those vines. Okay, well, let me give a little context, because I actually think this is going to resonate more deeply than your response has implied or has thus far. Because part of the context is that she really yearns for him to make certain changes. Changes in his way of being, changes in the actions he takes, changes in the actions he doesn't take. In other words, she has a bit of a list of how he can be a better partner and a better human being. I mean, everything that she wants it for her, but she also wants it for him. And his experience is that being growth oriented implies that he's not measuring up, that he has a to-do list that is always going to be incomplete, that he has a sense of inadequacy, that if she would be less oriented to growth and more oriented to satisfaction and appreciation of the good they share, then that would be less growth oriented and more satisfaction from his perspective. And one of the reasons I thought that that would be such a good conversation topic for you and me to have is, on the one hand, putting aside coaching these clients, for me, like, being satisfied and growth oriented are very harmonious with one another. Like, one of my growth areas at some point was to learn to be more grateful, to be more satisfied, to stop and smell the roses. That is a form of growth, of perceiving how incredible you are and shifting my attention from the things that annoyed me or I'd want you to change or do differently for me. So
yeah, I think it has to be, I mean, they're both right in a way, but I think that it is really helpful to, first of all, appreciate what you do have or what is good, and then progress from there to adding more. Otherwise, it's hard to feel like you're on the same team.
Yeah. And actually, I think one of the reminders of this for me, it's not relationship specific, but it was early enough in my understanding of this that it's the thing that stuck. That's my reference point. And that's a story that David Nagel tells. He is a personal growth expert, mindset expert. He has his own podcast, and I'm going to tell the stories I remember it. I may not have the details exactly right, but when he was a relatively young man, he was working for a loading company at the docks in Chicago, and he was married with some number of children, and his dream was to earn $50,000 a year. At the time, he was earning $25,000 or maybe $30,000, let's just say, and no one in his family had done that before, and he just thought over the course of his lifetime it would take 20 years, if it would even be possible, for him to earn $50,000 a year. However, as he immersed into teachings from Tony Robbins and other people and really took on a growth mindset, something that was a very new concept to him, what he did is he focused on doing the absolute best he could with the circumstances he was in. In other words, it's not exactly satisfaction in a relationship.
It's kind of acceptance.
It's acceptance, but it's also devotion to making the very most of the situation as it was. So he ended up, he was loading things. It was hard manual labor at the dock, but he got in the habit of looking people in the eye when they were passing him a bag of sand, or I'm making that up. Like, I don't know, but he would shake people's hands. He would look them in the eye. He would say thank you. Like, he made it a more humane experience. Where other workers would try to cut corners or extend their breaks because no one was monitoring, he stuck to his job description to the utmost best of his ability. And I don't know what other changes he made, but the point is that he took pride in the circumstances he was in. And
the other way of, I would say that is, when you are appreciating how things are, you're realizing the ways that things could be worse. Or the thing, there's something about where you have been or where things could go that they're not that way. And that helps you see the positive also of your current situation, or bring the positivity to it.
For sure. Like, he could be grateful for his health. Anyway, within 6 months, he had a promotion and was making $60,000 a year, and went on to become the only non-family member who was part of leadership at this company. But the point is that it started with just focusing on what he had and like living well with his current circumstances, rather than waiting until he made more money to be his best self. Now, that doesn't translate exactly into contentment and satisfaction in a relationship, but it is a kind of guiding principle for me that if you want things to be better, the best way to make them better in the future is to really engage with and do the most with how things currently are. And so that's essentially what I'm using to point to satisfaction. So,
and also I think appreciating the good that's around you now makes it easier to invite in the changes in a positive sense, or to ask instead of complain that what you want isn't happening, to ask for or make requests. It's easier if you're coming from the positive place of the other things that are working or that are good.